This year, more than any, feels like the year of the defenseman. Yes, Macklin Celebrini is a future star, and there are other great forward prospects this year, but I can't remember the last time I thought we could see 5 defensemen picked in the top 10 like I do about this year's draft. So, with that said, I thought now would be a good time to take a look at the top 5 defensive prospects together and see how they all compare and contrast. A little bit different from one of my scouting videos, I know, but I couldn't help it when compiling my mock draft. Make sure to like and subscribe for that, by the way. Now, without further ado, my name's Dylan, and I was a scout in the WHL for 5 years, and here are the top 5 defensemen in the 2024 NHL Draft. I'm going to start with the guy at the top of my board of defensemen, and that's Levshunov. One of the most valuable things in the NHL is a big, mobile defenseman capable of contributing on both ends of the ice while chewing up 30 minutes in a true number 1 role. There just aren't many of those guys, but Levshunov can be and probably will be. He has good vision and understands a range of offensive concepts and how best to support his forwards in all 3 zones. He can make a huge stretch pass to break someone loose or give a nice touch pass in the offensive zone for a tip. Couple that with his good seeing eye style shot from the point, and you've got a guy who can work second unit on the power play in addition to being a point producer at 5-on-5. But that's not what excites me the most about him. He has the best physical tools in the draft as he uses his size extremely well, and he has the best natural defensive instincts of anyone to go along with it. He likes to defend aggressively through the neutral zone, challenging opposing forwards with his reach and then with his body as they try to enter the zone. He's really good here as he knows how to catch them along the boards, and his strength and excellent skating helps keep them from just making a move to cut to the inside. That, more than anything, could be what makes him a top-tier defenseman in the NHL for 20 years. Sure, he could use some work on his net front defending, but so can everyone in their draft year, and he's starting from a much better place than the other guys I'll be talking about in this video. He's still overall pretty raw and is in the process of learning how to combine all of his amazing skills into a complete every shift package, so I think another year in college would do him some good, but after that, NHL forwards better look out. Easily the most complete defender in the draft class, Dickinson could end up being the second best of the bunch, behind the truly special Levshunov, just by being rock solid in both ends of the ice for the next 20 years. A model citizen for keeping his head on a swivel in the defensive zone, he's near perfect man-to-man defender. You can see him actively reading the defense at every moment and positioning himself to take away a forward with his body and a passing lane with his stick. Yes, his cerebral approach can sometimes lead to him reacting to the puck rather than anticipating where it'll go, and he will need to act on instinct at times at the NHL level. But for a prospect to be this solid and NHL ready in their own zone already, with so many of the best fundamentals built in, you take that trade-off. The only other note on his defending I have is how physical he's able to play. He can separate players from the puck, especially when he's already keeping them to the outside of the zone, and he's good at absorbing contact and using his smart positioning to protect the puck and make a good play. Offensively, he's super aggressive and his goal is clear. Do whatever it takes to make sure his team is on the attack. Stretch passes, aggressive holds at the offensive blue line to keep the zone, or firing his heavy shot on net for chaos net front are just a few of the tools in his arsenal. And that's without even mentioning his blazing speed and ability to join rushes. He isn't going to be a top point getter at the NHL, but he will help drive possession for his team, and he could really help elevate a team with an aggressive attacking system, either through feeding or joining a transitional attack, or as the guy getting the puck down low to an aggressive crash the net style team. There's no question that Zane Parekh has the most fun highlight reel of any of these defensemen. His offensive skill is no joke, and it isn't limited to only 1 or 2 aspects of his game. His puck skills, vision, shooting, playmaking, and skating all combine to make him a true standout, not just in this year's draft, but for many years to come. His shot would be considered silky smooth if he was a winger, and his ability to pass without looking is truly top-notch. And that's all without even mentioning his skating. The way he uses his edges to go around defenders without losing any speed at all is Makar level. So what's the catch? Surprisingly, it isn't his defensive fundamentals. He shows good positioning, he's aggressive in his own zone, and does a good job tracking loose players and not leaving them open in higher danger spots. The catch is that he's not strong enough to always be an effective defender, as he can be pushed back in a physical battle or just shrugged off on the way to the net. Parekh looks like a beanpole, and he needs to learn how to get lower to maximize his leverage in physical situations. Time will help fix the problem, however, as he'll get both bigger as he ages and coached up as he advances past the OHL. The only other thing I want to comment on is that while his highlight reel is electric as anyone I've ever seen, a lot of it's against some pretty soft and passive defense. It'll take time for him to be able to play that way against higher levels of competition as he adjusts to the speed and aggressiveness defending forwards at the pro level compete with. Because of both his size and competition, I could see him taking a minute before reaching the NHL as he finishes out his junior eligibility and maybe an AHL season or two before making a big-time impact in the NHL, similar to a former top defensive pick in Ryan Ellis. In a lot of drafts, Buium could or would be the first defenseman off the board, and this year he might be the fifth one to hear his name called. A special offensive talent, he might be the most ready to step into the NHL with his size and mature style game ready for a new challenge after only 1 year in the NCAA. He sees the ice extremely well and can find his teammates in good places to score. He carries that vision over to his scoring chances as well. Not only will he use his exceptional puck handling to walk the line to find a shooting lane, but he can get aggressive and will walk in to take shots from the high slot, or charge along the boards, sucking in wingers, and then using his body to box them out on his way to the net. Yes, this can backfire if his shot is blocked and things go the other way, but I'll take the aggressive approach, especially on the power play. Not to mention, a good coach should be able to work with him on better risk management too. Defensively, he shows good instincts and will both engage guys physically and take plays away with his stick. He knows how to gain inside leverage physically, but can find himself puck watching too much at times like most young defenders. His safer approach to defending and experience in a man-to-man system should help him transition to the NHL rather quickly and with fewer speed bumps than most other young defensemen. That said, a team is drafting him for his special offensive game anyway. Finally, we have Anton Silayev. I have written and rewritten this part so many times because with each new viewing, I notice something different. At 6'7", he has incredible size and length, and for a big man he has good speed and agility that allows him to cover a lot of ground in the defensive zone. The more I watch him, the more I come around on his defending too. He's good about using his stick to take away passing lanes, and he's great at sticking to his assignment when playing man coverage. My biggest gripe is probably that he isn't more physical given his size, as it's far too frequent for him to engage with someone physically but either lose the leverage battle or fail to truly take a smaller player out of the play throughout muscling him. He's also fairly reactionary, and I'd like to see him read the play a little more, as sometimes players will surprise him and he can freeze up and hesitate on what he should do. Otherwise, he isn't going to be a liability in his own zone, and even at the floor of his potential, he'd still be a middle-of-the-rotation nuisance for opposing teams. Offensively, he is a little boring, especially compared to the other players in this draft class. Safe passes are the name of the game, and while he can join rushes with his speed, he isn't going to rack up the highlight reel moments like everyone else we've talked about today. Expect lots of passes to his D partner in the offensive zone, which is a shame because he shows good vision when making plays to break his team out of his own zone. He defends the puck well with his size, and that gives him time to find the best outlet pass, and I'd like to see him do that more in the offensive zone too. Overall, he's a really solid defensive prospect who might not have the showmanship qualities of some of the other guys, but will still be a solid contributor to his team's success for a long time. So, compare and contrast time. I'll start with the outlier, Levshunov. He's special in my book, and I just have him rated in a tier of his own. He has a sneaky, dynamic offensive game, and his aggressiveness defending and use of his size is just too good to ignore. Teams should have him atop their defensive board like past defensemen in Victor Hedman, Rasmus Dahlin, or Aaron Ekblad, despite the rawness of his game and the fact that he isn't as ready to go as they all were in their draft years. On the offensive side of things is where things get interesting. Buium and Parekh are both special offensive players, but super different. Buium's want to charge in and do it himself with a style unlike anything I've ever seen before, swooping along the boards and then cutting in to go net front. It's just not how defensemen usually attack. I have questions about how effective it'll be at the next level, where defenders, yes, even wingers, will be smarter, bigger, and more likely to make your mistakes hurt you. Also, when it's taken away from his game, his vision is only above average and doesn't match the elite play of his scoring chances. Parekh, on the other hand, has vision for days, with no-look passes and behind-the-back plays looking easy for him. My only question is how he will develop physically, and the fact that his timeline to the NHL looks the longest to me at potentially 3 to 4 years while he waits to add strength and gets better against aggressive defenders. The choice between them for teams may just come down to how NHL ready they are. Buium is potentially good to go now, though his defense would be a liability. While if you're a team drafting high, it's possible that by the time Parekh joins your team, you aren't even the GM anymore. You are drafting high for a reason after all. With players like Sam Dickinson and Anton Silayev though, who are not offensive wizards like Buium and Parekh and not the special prospect that Levshunov is, personal preference means a lot more. They're rock-solid two-way players that will make any team that drafts them better for a long time, but not necessarily in the most exciting of ways. When choosing between them, Dickinson has the better offensive upside, especially with his blazing speed. So, if a team likes to focus on transitional attacks, he should be their guy, whereas if a team likes man-to-man defending and values disrupting their opponents more, Silayev should be their pick. Either way though, a team is coming out with a pretty safe choice. So finally, ranking time. It can't be a surprise that I have Levshunov first. He's just that special kind of defenseman that doesn't come around all that often. After him, I have Sam Dickinson. I like his strong two-way game, his ability to join and lead rushes, and that he might be the most physical of all of these guys. Next, the first of the offensive defensemen, and that's Buium. His game is so unique, and while I can't say for sure how it'll translate to the NHL, sign me up. Next, I have Parekh, because I mean, come on, the dude is a wizard out there who will be an offensive force for a while. If he was bigger and had a quicker timeline in my mind, he'd be as high as 2 for me, but that just shows how stacked this class is. Finally, Anton Silayev. He very well could hear his name second amongst all these guys, but for me, his offense being limited and the lack of physical play means he pulls up the rear of my rankings. No matter what direction teams choose to go come June 28th, this crop of defenders is remarkably special, and we'll be talking about them for a long time.